What makes a person stand out among the crowd?
I think when it comes to recruitment, nobody plans to be a recruiter, right? Firstly, you go to school, become educated, you have a dream as a child to be whatever.
And I think the way in which Greg and I like to operate certainly falls in line with having the ability to genuinely partner with companies, add value.
If you're a C-suite executive and you're considering a move, you need to be really proactive on that move. I think the recruitment process at this level is long.
Our sort of ethos on recruitment is well aligned, very relationship driven, very quality focused, wanting to genuinely partner with people and companies.
So like there are so many tools now online, like Canva, different AI tools that can help with presentations, but ultimately in an interview, you don't have a marketing team. You've got to bring the value to that company, and you have an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours max to do that. So I think my point being is, if you are looking for a role in today's world, you need to get clued up on how to present.
Our mission again, I think, was quite clear and is coming quite true today. We wanted to be a consultancy for the food industry that offered value, where people were right at the core, and that's where the recruitment part comes in, the talent part comes in.
Are you ready to unleash?
Just about.
Yeah, I'm
Not
ready to
100%?
100% ready to unleash. Let's go.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming here today. I'm so inspired by your great story and the great stuff that you're doing with Food People. I just need to understand, why Food People? Why you guys founded Food People?
Wow. I'll let Greg answer that one.
So how did it start? Essentially, we were on a flight to back from Jordan actually, and we flew into the country. We got invited in to meet a business, and we met this very, very senior guy. I think he was like almost royal family in Jordan, and inspired us. And at the time, Luke and I only really known each other for like 3 months or so. Yeah, it was a short period of time, but I think the way that we thought, our ethics, our values were very much aligned. And then on the flight back, we were halfway back, and we actually have a photo of it somewhere we need to show you. We just came up with the idea and asked each other, do you want to do this? And it was a resounding yes. And Food People was created on that flight. And that's how it all began. But I think the reason why there's a couple of reasons why we did it, right? One, people thought we were crazy, first of all, because we only wanted to focus on food, but I don't think anyone truly appreciated how big the food industry is and will be and will continue to be. But I think more importantly, it's about finding the right person to do it with. And that person was Luke. And fortunate enough to sit next to him on that flight, and then that's where the magic happened.
We still speak to each other, which is, I guess, great opportunity to say, very early on, we talked to each other. Recruitment isn't rocket science, right? People always talk about mission and vision. I think if you want to talk about vision, Greg and I, it was simple. We wanted to have the best recruitment company for the food industry. Halas, that was the aim. Mission became obvious, I think, really soon. When you speak to some people, I think they say like their mission comes after a while. Our mission, again, I think was quite clear and is coming quite true today. We wanted to be a consultancy for the food industry that offered value, where people were right at the core. And that's where the recruitment part comes in, the talent part comes in. We're now embarking on our journey in terms of offering other value-added solutions to companies across the entire value chain of food. Greg said it. People said we were insane. They said, man, recruitment company, Food People, like you can only do the food industry. I say food, I mean food and beverage. But when you go from farm to fork, people really start understanding sort of the breadth of the industry and how big it is. And I think the way in which Greg and I like to operate certainly falls in line with having the ability to genuinely partner with companies, add value. And I think, again, Greg said it, when we came together, it was quite clear early on that our sort of ethos on recruitment was well aligned, very relationship driven, very quality focused, wanting to genuinely partner with people and companies. And I hope the that's a DNA that's sort of embedded into food people today.
That's amazing and impressive. So I like the story that you have just said right now when you're in aeroplane, right? You spoke about food and people, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that there is something came into your mind, right, about passion to food, right? What is that thing that came into your mind? Why especially food? Was it like data driven, or is it your passion?
Look, I think when it comes to recruitment, nobody plans to be a recruiter, right? Firstly, you go to school, you become educated, you have a dream as a child to be whatever, and I'm pretty certain for most recruiters it's not recruitment. But eventually, you know, you form relationships, you end up in certain scenarios, and then you find a passion. So the passion for me is, again, people, firstly. The food was secondary. So, you know, I'm a huge foodie now. I love to cook. It's a big part of my life. But that only really came in later in life. It wasn't kind of something that I grew up with, really. I found recruitment first, and then I found food. So that's kind of how that happened. But I think ultimately what was missing in the market when we formed was the ability to really talk about what it was that you were doing socially. And one thing that I wanted to bring to, and I was keen to kind of push on Luke, which at the time Luke was a little bit kind of hesitant on, was I wanted
Massively
to
resistant.
I wanted to, you know, create a business where we could talk about the success and could talk about the businesses that we worked with and celebrate the candidates and the people that we put into these positions. And this was before, this is like 7 years ago, right? So this was before kind of business podcasts were online. And I said to Luke, I said, right, what I want to do is when we place somebody, I want to get a photo with the candidate. I want to put it online. If we do a deal with a restaurant group, I want to be going to the restaurant, eating the food, tasting the food, and I want to talk about it online. If that restaurant has it open, we need to be there, and we need to be the platform to help them, you know, appear online. And again, you know, going back to what I was saying, that was kind of breakthrough, I feel, in recruitment at that time, because recruitment's a very guarded industry, right? No one wants to let anyone know who they work with in case you take that thing. But, you know, our thought process was that if we're good enough, you know, we do things the right way, and we essentially match the right people to the right jobs. It doesn't matter who calls that client, they're going to stay with us because of the relationship, and then the reputation kind of grew from there.
That's impressive.
I'll go to, I guess, my journey, and then I'm desperate for Greg to say how he fell into recruitment within the food industry. But my wife and I were talking about it, funnily enough, on my side. I guess it never dawned on me until you speak about it and backtrack. But you know, I was at university. I thought I was going to be a sports journalist. That's probably where I wanted to go in my career, but did a business degree, graduated, joined a multinational recruitment company in the UK. So I was quite fortunate at entry level. I was given an opportunity to learn what is, I would consider, best practice. And the company said to me, listen, we really like you after the interview. Unfortunately, we only have one trainee slot available. It's not the sexiest division. I said, what is it? And they said, food manufacturing. I said, wow. Funnily enough, the biggest inspiration in my life is my grandfather. We still Zoom every Sunday. He's 86 years old. And he, after finishing in the army in the UK, became the national operations director for Burton's Biscuits, which is a food company.
For sure.
So from a young age, I never realised the connection, but from a young age, I used to go around to food manufacturing plants, distribution centres. So I guess I was at learning phase at that stage. And then, yeah, when these guys said, oh, there's a slot on the food division, I was like, great. 5 years there, moved here. I think, again, I was fortunate. I think Greg fell into food recruitment in a very different way, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, I moved here when I was 19 for the first time. And you know what's really strange? My first job actually here was in recruitment, and I lasted like 3 months. Went back home. Right?
What was the reason for that?
I think I was just too young at the time. And you know, ultimately just wasn't ready.
We'll tell you the stories offline.
And then spent some time back in the UK, and then there was like eating on me that this just wasn't the place for me. And I then eventually came back and got into real estate. So did real estate for 4 years, and was selling that tower there off plan, which was an incredible experience. And I think I was fortunate to meet so that's kind of where it started. And then I actually moved to Australia, lived down in Melbourne for 4 years. And in Australia, to do real estate, which you don't obviously have to do here, you have to pass an exam.
Oh,
Yeah. Now Luke is much more educated than me, and education and passing exams is probably not my forte. So when I saw that I had to do all these exams, I thought, maybe not.
it's like driving license here in UAE. When you have it, you have like celebration.
Yeah.
Celebrate. So I know you guys, you have like great reputation in Gulf when we speak about food people. Most of C-levels, they know you.
Yeah.
So I want to understand from your experience, and you have hands-on right now in the marketplace, what are the biggest challenges that you see it in the market in terms of C-levels candidates? What are the challenges that you face?
Do you mean when you say challenges, from what aspect, in terms of them
finding
a role?
like great executive role?
Look, firstly, I think these roles are few and far between, right? So I think if you're a C-suite executive and you are considering a move, you need to be really proactive on that move. I think the recruitment process at this level is long. All right. So I think the first thing I would say, that if there are executives out there that are considering a move, they need to really get ahead on that, start forming relationships with trusted people in the market. We were just talking about this earlier on, networking early. The amount of C-suite guys that I've met and know who do not proactively network is crazy. So I think firstly, it would be start the search early, build relationships with people like us. Secondly, it would be start networking it within the market outside of your kind of tier one connections. And number 3 would be patience.
I like this patience, right? So when I speak about patience, how long does it take just in that level of C-levels or just executives to find like a great opportunity or just being pushed?
I would say it's all about timing, and it comes into patience. Greg said it already. Like at CXO level, you're not a brand manager, you're not a customer service manager, you're not a restaurant manager. Therefore, like Greg said, there's not thousands of these job opportunities. Therefore, patience comes in. How long it takes? Greg's already said a few things that people can do to be accountable and to be proactive and to help themselves in achieving senior roles. I think, listen, it's 2024, right? I know that CXO level people now, I don't know what the generation you call them, but whether we like it or not, let's go back to what Greg was joking about before. If you think about food people as a brand, Greg is the one that made me realize that he wanted to build this brand, and in turn we built this brand. It's not right true in recruitment. It's food people. We wanted it to be more than just about us. We wanted to grow this business. I mentioned a word, brand. We live in 2024. If you've got no personal brand now, through vehicles that are readily available to you to express how good you are, what you've achieved, what you believe in, through authenticity, through being genuine, you've got an audience that you can speak to. A nice social media platform is a prominent one, so to speak, but the importance of personal branding now is massive. And I've mentioned Greg, it's not my style. It's not natural to me. You'll see me post on certain channels and things like that. That's not natural to me. Doing this is not natural. You've asked me to do this for a while now. Greg's my safety blanket. That's why I'm here today. But at times Greg sense checkers me, and you realise what's important for the business. It's not about me. It's not about Greg. It's about food people, and doing things like this helps elevate. It helps communicate. Greg's talked about networking. That's an intimate way, and it's the right way. People need to be networking. We have people, we host events, leaders dinners, leaders breakfasts, iftars, everything like this, where we like to help build the ecosystem. I think by building food people, we know that we've got a place in the market where there's a bit of an ownership on us to help bring people together, which we enjoy. Sometimes senior people will say to us, I'm too busy. I don't see the value in a networking event, blah, blah, blah. And we sit there, and thankfully now we've done a lot of events. People seem to ask to come a bit more than us kind of begging people like it used to be. But going round and round, I think personal branding is huge. The way in which you communicate to an audience. We're talking about how long it can take to achieve a role. Well, that can accelerate it. The same way networking can, but patience, timing,
So much just came to mind. I think another thing that not only executives, but at all levels now, they need to work on their ability to present. Not only actually standing up and being able to communicate their value add and what they can bring to a business, but actually being able to put that in a presentation form. So like there are so many tools now online, like Canva and different AI tools that can help with presentations. But ultimately in an interview, you don't have a marketing team, right? It's you. You've got to do it.
Me, yeah.
You've got to bring the value to that company, and you have an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours max to do that. And I am shocked to the core, I would say 90% of the time when I see a presentation that is going to be put forward to a client, say like a case study environment.
And
right?
they're at higher level, I would say, executive levels even, right?
Every mid level. Let's talk salary bands. From 25,000 to 30,000 upward, you will be expected to do a case study now in most interview processes.
But from the other way around, 300 to 400k a month, you'd be expected to do it.
Yeah. All levels, right? That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter whether you're going at the mid-level or you're going in to run a company, you are going to be expected to put your best foot forward and present it in a way that is meaningful and memorable. So I think my point being is, if you are looking for a role in today's world, you need to get clued up on how to present. And that, again, the content is everything, but the way that content is put across is also heavily considered now, especially if it's a global multinational business with a lot of brand equity. So that would be something else that I'd be really considering.
That's impressive insight. So what makes like a candidate stand out among the crowd? Because I see like most people, what I see them from also from the network that we have, they rely too much on their technical abilities, maybe the name of the companies, the brands that they have. And they think that this will save them in that way. Maybe it will help them even position themselves in the interviews. But unfortunately, those people, I know them. When they come inside the interview, I don't know, there is even auto-rejection. I wouldn't say even rejection, auto-rejection. And they come in this cycle of self-doubt, why? What makes a person stand out among the crowd?
It's what you can do. It's what do you bring to the table? What can you do to take this business forward? And I think where a lot of candidates or people fall down at interview is they talk. It's important to talk about the team. It's important to talk about who you've developed and who you've brought along that journey. But ultimately, it's about what can you bring to the company. And I think, again, if people go into it in like a hypothetical way and don't really talk about things with real data driven and numbers backed achievements and say, this is what I can do. This is what I did. And this is what I can do. That's rule number one for me, because far too many leaders in this market, they hide behind the brand, which you mentioned a moment ago. And this is why, again, in this market, I would say, I don't have the data on this, but the average tenure is about 18 months, 2 years, I would say, average, okay? And that's typically because organizations in this part of the world look at the brand and go, we need to get that person because they work for that brand. Especially in a restaurant industry. Talent gets looked at because of the brand that they work for, not always the value that they brought to that brand. So going back to your original question, in an interview scenario, they need to be able to talk about what they did. Rule number one.
I use something called WOW. It's something I learned when I was working with Mars, the chocolate company, many years ago. And I do this every time I speak to somebody. As Greg's saying, I get them to think about the wow factor. So if we're talking about an achievement or the value that you bring, what you did, why you did it, and what was the wow factor of that. Educate the person. Like, too many people will use numbers or use a blanket statement about an achievement, but they'll fail to say the purpose, why they did what they did to make the achievement. And also go into detail and maybe assume that people just think that they did that. Greg said it before. You need to talk about the value that you brought to that business, not just hide behind the brand. Like you said, you're talking about interview. Think before that. Think about what gets you to an interview. What gets you to an interview in this day and age is being networked with the right people, having a good brand online, because let's face it, headhunters these days, they use LinkedIn a lot. So you need to have, that is your CV now. LinkedIn is your CV, right?
Yeah.
I'm old school. I have a 16-year network within one industry, so I can pick up the phone to the majority of execs in the region and I will ask about who they've mentored, who they would recommend for a role that would require X, Y, and Z experience. This is a culture, this is what they need. And typically I'd get recommendations and I'm looking for that name that's mentioned 2 or 3 times. And then I'm like, right, that's the guy. Right? I don't need to go on LinkedIn and try and be educated by the guys in my business that know how to do search online better than I do. But let's face it, today you need a strong LinkedIn profile. I see so many execs with these amazing profiles. Call it a CV, call it an exec summary, call it exec profile. They have this amazing product, but it's not replicated online. We live in a virtual world now, you know? So if that's not replicated and you don't showcase, and again, it's 2024, right? Gone are the days where, how many roles are advertised online? Like, there's so many, especially at the exec level. Again, no data, but I would assume that 75% of positions aren't actually advertised online. Why? Listen, if I advertise a chief supply chain officer or a CEO level role today, within half an hour, I'm probably going to have 5,000 applicants. Listen, time is our biggest commodity in life. I'm not going through 5,000 applicants. Let me say it right there. I rely on network, but also there's an element of searching for the right people online. Of course, you've got to use the tools to your disposal in the modern world, but again, achieving in the interview is one thing, getting the interview is another.
That's amazing one. I think that you opened our mind on one thing. So if you post something, let's say in Food People, you have posted like a specific job, right? For, let's say, C-level. And you mentioned like 5,000 people, maybe they will apply, right? What will make you, what's that one thing that if someone did it, it will just grab your attention?
Someone applied. They need to, so look, I'll break it down kind of how it works. So a job gets advertised. Typically that recruitment company will have a CRM that does a keyword search against a CV that will then match that CV to the job advertisement, okay? If it's a good CRM, it will then rank the CVs based upon the number of keywords that match. So if you are looking for a role and you see a job advertisement, you need to tailor your CV to that job advertisement specifically if you want it to go up the ranks, okay? But the thing is, applying for a job is just one thing, right? You then should be looking for someone, whether it's with a recruitment business or direct with a client. You need to be identifying someone senior within that business to try and make connection with. Hey, I know you're super busy, but I just wanted to let you know I have applied. Would love the opportunity to have a chat. Number two. Number three, the personal brand comes back in, right? They need to see that they want to get an insight in terms of, if you've ticked those two things off and you're finally now in the lens of that company, they're going to be looking at your socials. They're going to be trying to get a bit of an understanding of who you are, maybe talking to people in the market potentially. Okay, because a lot of work gets done in the background before they even pick up the phone to you. But again, back to your original question, they need to tailor the application to the job itself and not keep sending out generic applications.
It's amazing. Look, if I ask you, let's say 200 people, they send you, let's say as an executive search, let's say 200 people sent you, okay? And you opened these 200 messages, okay? How you will prioritize your response according to what you will see? Because 200 people, I believe, for one job, it's too much, right? But I think that there is some biases in our mind that will let you just prioritize those people and will maybe just send them as a candidate for the opportunity.
Personalization. Again, I don't know how many messages we'll get now on LinkedIn just daily without posting job adverts. These generic messages, and I assume they're AI driven. I assume they are. And listen, I've said it before, that let's not pretend I'm a dinosaur. I'm all about embracing the technology and the tools that we have to our disposal. But if you're not going to make the effort to personalize messages, do you even warrant a response? That's controversial.
Well, I'll be clear, they wouldn't get a response off me. Now I know what an AI generated message is on LinkedIn. And in fact, I'll decline the message a lot of the time. I've even, when I got really frustrated at the start, I even replied to 2 people and said, hey, your message is AI generated. I would reconsider how you structure that message.
That's all he did every day.
Yeah. And
he was replying to AI generated messages.
Yeah. But again, there is no, if we'll just touch on AI for a minute, because like Luke said, it's not going anywhere. We embrace it. We use it a lot through people to make our company more efficient. But the amount of posts that are now generated by AI on LinkedIn that are so obvious that they're generated by ChatGPT is ridiculous. And now I laugh. Like,
I saw this emoji. I saw this,
certain emojis, like the star, like star titles, like at least take off the star. But then the biggest giveaway is that the hashtags, and they then,
don't tell people.
They then put a cap. It's case sensitive.
Even if you tell them, they will do the same process.
So people need to wake up to the idea. And again, like these people will be thinking, oh my god, I'm using AI now. I'm there. But the thing is, the world is years ahead of you. So you need to use AI for some creative inspiration, get some ideas, maybe help it plan your social calendar, however you want to do it. But if you're going to get it to write posts, you need to tweak it, because it's so obvious that it's AI now, and it's embarrassing, to be honest.
Yeah.
And you know what, as well, just going back to AI,
Yes.
there is currently no data to prove that AI generated messaging has more of a cut through than authentic. So albeit the AI generated messaging will be more efficient and save you time, the end result is a lot worse.
100%. Yeah.
So this is another consideration. Like when people, like now you can go on to LinkedIn and you can click a button and it will write the message for you. Come on.
Circle back to your question. If you get 200 applicants, how's it going to catch attention? Personalization.
If I ask you about personalization, what do you mean by what that one thing that if I wrote it to you, it will click with you, and you see that this is personalization? How can I personalize it with you? How can I grab your attention?
Have a look on the person's feed at something they've recently done. Hey Luke, I noticed the other day that you went to the restaurant, UAE restaurant group opening day. How was it? Looked really good. Thanks for sharing the information online. Oh, by the way, right? Because they've taken the effort to then see what it is that you're doing. They've caught my attention because then they're actually looking at something that I've done, right? Yes, there might be a little bit of ego stroking, right, in those opening messages. But if you want to catch people's attention in today's day and age, sometimes you have to do that. So I think it's make that opening. It has to have a hook. It has to catch. And if someone, wrote, like we do panels, right? If someone messaged me and said, "Hey Greg, I was at Gulfwood the other week and I saw your panel, really liked it when you spoke about this," I'd be like, bang, I want to talk to this person.
I'm really worried because this could backfire. I've got a hook. You're going to get my attention. Just listening to you now, you get my attention if you've made the effort to make a connection and maybe use a name that's connected to both of us.
Yeah, mutual, I would say.
A mutual connection, yes. Perfect. Yes. So if somebody starts a message, "Dear Luke, hey Luke, I got your name from," or "We're both connected with X and he recommended that I speak to you," you've got positive affirmation and positive connection already. You're giving me a hook to say, "Oh, I know that person. Oh, yeah. And by making that connection, I'm saying, "Oh, well, that guy's a good guy. This lady must be a great person." So that's my hook. But please don't send messages now. Everybody, "Hey, I see you with Ahmed."
But, no, it's a great hook, but it's only a great hook if it's authentic.
Well, yeah.
And they actually know the referral.
True.
Because again, I've had this, and this is a typical AI play now, right? There are apps out there that then look at mutual connections and then create a message that exact way. Because I had a company, I can't remember what they were doing, but all four of their sales team sent me the same message, but referencing different people that we had joint connections with.
It's template, like
it's a template, right?
Yeah.
It's AI generated. Now the thing is, I've had to remove connections. I've got 30,000 connections on LinkedIn now, which is the max, right? Do you really think I know every single one of those people? No, right? I probably know 500 of them, honestly.
And the rest is coming, like inbound people is just coming up.
Yeah. So again, if you're gonna hook or name drop, please make sure that it's a genuine referral, not just, you have 100 people in common and I'm just going to pick someone at random and hope that works, because it doesn't.
Well, the chances are, if they use a name, I'm probably going to go back to that person and say, "Hey, and such has reached out." Don't know the person.
Yeah.
That's a great. So, if I ask you, we spoke about like personalization. What are those things that I know that you need people to make like exert effort to connect with you? Yeah. But what is that one thing that when they just send this template, it's AI? What's the common thing that you see when they send you like first connection, they want to turn you from second into first connection? What's that one thing that, "Oh no, I don't want. Halas, I park it aside"?
Ultimately, if you're using an AI generated message, we know it's an AI generated message.
How do you feel it?
Because we get them all the time, right? And that it's the same message. It's not generative AI, I don't think, because it's not learning as it works with you in your profile, right? All it does currently is it takes the name, the industry that you work in, it looks at the person that's messaging the industry they're working in, and then tries to create a message around it. So it's not generative where it's learning as it goes. It's just very kind of stagnant, in my opinion. So every single message that gets generated is pretty much identical. Now you may be able to regenerate it, but ultimately people don't do that, and they just send the first one because of time, because of efficiency, etc. So I think my honest recommendation would be just to move away from AI generated messaging.
It's amazing.
It's dangerous, isn't it? Like when listening, the amount of times now you could delete a message because you feel that it's AI generated, but it might actually be personalized. But because the world's stuck in this vortex of what is and what isn't at the moment, I said it before, time is our biggest commodity. And the trap that you could fall into in no time is just not engaging in messages, and that's the scariest thing in the world, I think.
I just thought that. I think what we're talking about here is someone looking for a job, right?
Yeah.
Your job is second, third most important thing in your life, right? So therefore, if you really want that job, or you really want to connect to that person that can give you access to that top 3 thing in your life and could change things dramatically for you and your family, then maybe you should kind of level up in terms of your form of communication.
Right? Invest in it, right?
Invest in it, make it authentic, make it meaningful, make it connect.
Take accountability,
right? If it's, you're putting on an event and you want to send out 500 invitations, absolutely. Perfect, efficient, you know, you're going to ping out like 500 messages at once. You know, you're probably going to get a 30% hit rate on those invitations. Fantastic, good use of time. Those 30%, then I'll focus on that and make it a little bit more personable and maybe put a call in, looking forward to seeing you. That makes sense. But if we're talking about a job, right, we're talking about something that is essentially going to make your life better, right? It's going to give you more opportunities, give you more exposable income, a better way of living. And I think if people, you know, haven't got the time or don't want to put in the investment or effort to really try and make those true connections authentic, I think you're going backwards, not forwards.
The process, meeting the vice president, meeting the CEO, meeting, and then they wait 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They come back, speak to the recruiter. They come back, also try to find any feedback from the company itself, and both are ghosting them. What is your view in that process itself? Because it's devastating for the candidate when I just invest too much time with you, with the company, I invest too much time and they respond so much quickly. When you ask me about this role, I give you my time, I just plan everything according to you. And once I asked you about something, you ghosted me away. What's your view on that?
So from a recruiter's perspective, first of all, we only have feedback once we receive the feedback. Number one, and I think candidates don't always understand that. And you know, there are businesses out there that are pretty poor at running a recruitment process. Fact. So if we don't have the feedback, then the feedback can't be given. However, no communication throughout whatever that time period is also not cool, right? So I think communication in general in this, I think in today's world is one of the biggest challenges. We live in a WhatsApp world now, which we're not fans of. We prefer open communication, talking over the phone. But again, we're all busy and people revert to WhatsApp. Equally, sometimes, you know, these conversations can't be had when the person's at their desk. So again, it goes to WhatsApp. So again, I think communication as a whole needs to have a bit of a refresh. But from a recruitment point of view, when it comes to candidate feedback, one thing that we train our team on is just try and say it how it is. And I think it's a confrontational, or could be a confrontational situation for someone. And ultimately, it depends on how good the training and development is of that leadership team within the agency, is then reflective of how the consultant deals with that scenario. All right. So I think firstly, it's on the leadership of the recruitment agency to train their team on how to give feedback. Also, sometimes it's important to ask the candidate if they want the feedback, because not everyone wants it. People say, I want feedback. But if you actually give them the truth, sometimes they get really frustrated and upset with that feedback. But I think throughout my career, when I've given feedback, I've always been pretty direct with it. And I think you shoot from the hip, you tell them exactly how it is, and then the candidate has the opportunity to change.
It's clear, right? Like the feedback isn't from us. We're the recruiter, executive search, headhunter, whatever you want to call us. The feedback isn't our feedback. So many recruiters that we've worked with are worried about conveying it or communicating it. You've got to give the honest message.
Yeah.
Like the feedback, Greg's already said it. Sometimes we don't get it. That's a problem. You know, I'd like to think that we work with companies that are professional. And I would say by the majority, the organizations that we work with, they embrace business partnership. They understand that we want to be an extension of their business. and that we're professional. Therefore, they can trust that we're going to communicate the message in the right way. But we need the message, and that's what Greg said. At that point, again, as he said, it's our job then to communicate that message. And you can use the term sugarcoating or whatever it might be. If somebody's invested a week, a month, 2 months into a process, they deserve that feedback. It should be a learning. 100%. The amount of times when you give honest feedback that somebody will say thank you, and they can use that, and we educate them, use this. Let's use this as we go into another process in the future. Let's learn from this. And you can't learn unless you're educated.
There's been multiple times where current clients today have been candidates that we rejected.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, if there are any recruiters out there that are concerned about giving feedback and they're a bit worried about how the candidate might take it, it can level you up very quickly in terms of, do you know what? They were honest, they were open, they were transparent. I didn't like it at first, but in 24 hours, 48 hours, you know, I dissolved it and I'm okay with it, and I'll use that person again. And not many recruiters think that way. I think one thing I'll touch on as well is sometimes we don't get feedback. There are some clients across the GCC that just don't give us feedback, right? So then the recruiter then has a choice to make. They either say, most of the time they'll probably say, I'm sorry you weren't a culture fit, because that's kind of the go-to feedback if you don't have any. Or you then have to say, I'm really sorry, but the client's not giving me any feedback at all. But then you jeopardize the brand equity of the client, right? So as a recruiter, sometimes you are put in quite a challenging position when it comes to feedback. It's not always a case of that recruiter didn't give me feedback, I'm not gonna use them again. So I think candidates also need to realize that sometimes we don't get feedback, and we are sometimes put in challenging situations where we have to be a bit creative, because ultimately the client hasn't been accountable enough to give that feedback.
I'll pick up on a point. And it's a good friend of mine. He's a mentor in many ways, but brand equity. I had somebody that I know very well, senior exec. He was interviewing, and he'd done maybe 3-4 interviews with this highly reputable business. I won't say who, obviously, but and he was ghosted and/or wasn't given strong enough feedback to suggest why he didn't get the position. What did he do? What did he say to me? Felt extreme at the time, but I've probably done the same with a lot of companies when I think about it. He now will never use that business again. It's an airline. He refuses to fly with that airline now because he had such a bad experience. When you talk about brand equity, and when he now, look at this, when he speaks to his friends in his close network, he educates them on that, and it's such a bad experience. It damages the reputation and the brand.
Yes.
And Greg said it right at the start of his comment. Good training. People need to be educated that it is an investment, and the message that you're sending is an education for somebody, and you shouldn't steal that from somebody.
So what is that message for, I would say, for other recruiters? You can teach them from your experience. If they have the same situation, no feedback from the company itself, and they don't know, they are between like two fires. Maybe they don't receive formal feedback from them. Maybe it's yes, maybe it's no, but the process is very long. And at the same time, also the candidate is nagging about feedback. What's that message that you can tell them, or just the advice you can tell them?
My advice would be that I just have to be honest and be open and say, look, I know this is not the news that we want, but I still haven't received any feedback. I'm doing everything that I can to get that feedback, but at the moment I haven't got anything. Please don't think that this is me trying to sidestep. It's not. It's just how it is. I think then, though, the recruiter has a choice to make, because they then have a choice to decide whether they want to work with that client again or not. Because if they continue to work with that client and that client does not continuously give feedback, that recruiter's reputation diminishes in the market. So it's about choosing the right businesses that want to invest in the recruitment process and want a real relationship and a partnership. And again, there are many organizations that don't see the value in that. So I think going back to your question, it would be just be honest.
I think we're in a slightly different position to a lot of other recruitment companies. We're boutique, we're niche, yeah? So we're focused on the food industry. So the person that is a candidate today has become the client tomorrow on a number of occasions for us. Therefore, that experience that they have with you is memorable if you make it that way. Now, again, we're quite vocal. Food people we're not the cheapest in the market for sure, but we're also not transactional. Therefore, when a company approaches me, for example, and they say, Luke, we need you to look for a COO, here's a JD, yalla, go, send me CVs. The first thing we say is, wait, we need to take a brief. We need the key stakeholders that are involved in the process on the brief. We need to understand what you're looking for from a technical standpoint and from a soft skill culture fit standpoint. Otherwise, we can't possibly do our job. Now, there are cheaper agencies for sure who have their own space in the market and
I will send you CV.
and they have their own strategy, and that might work. Because we're boutique, because we're food industry only, every single relationship to us, I would say, matters. Therefore, if you don't give people a good enough candidate experience, the market's small. It's big, but it's small. And people talk. We spoke about it earlier today. People talk. So the minute you have feedback, you've got to give it. Don't sugarcoat it. Give it how it is. When you don't get it, coming back to the question, Greg said it, you've got a choice. I think you've got to be honest. Like Greg said, you got to say to him, listen, the client's decided to not give feedback. I'll continue to go for it. But let's take this as a lesson and a learning that maybe it wasn't the right company to join. Me personally, I would still chase for that feedback. I think you could tell that I value it. Would I work with a company again if that's the sort of methodology that they adopted and that's the value that they put on feedback? Probably not. I'd probably be a little bit more cautious next time. But it comes back to relationship building. It is who food people are. It's our DNA, and I've said it a number of times. A candidate is a client, so we've got to stay true to who we are. You've got to be genuine. You've got to be honest. That's what people deserve anyway.
That's impressive, guys. So if I come back by the experience that you had before, what was the biggest, I would say, just challenge that you faced while establishing Food People? And maybe I would say even take it from that perspective, something that was uncertain happened to you and it was unexpected.
Wow.
I know it's a very big question, but we can think about it.
There's a lot of answers here, right?
Give me the biggest one.
I think, look, I'm not going to go into this one in too much detail because everyone felt it. COVID was the biggest challenge and learning I've ever experienced in my life. We went from, I think it was circa 60 projects. We had, at the time, 13 employees. And on March the 17th, we went into lockdown. And every single client put their jobs on hold.
How do you remember that?
Apart from two. Because it was a day I went into surgery.
Oh.
And it was my brother's birthday.
Fantastic. So I have no idea where COVID.
So I was having back surgery. We went into lockdown.
Oh my God.
We had 13 employees and no jobs.
Happy birthday, Glenn.
And happy birthday to my little brother. So that, as two young business owners that were essentially recruiters that had then taken that entrepreneurial journey, that was a big learning. And, I think one thing I'll say is we managed to keep every employee on. We kept the team together. We were recognized for helping the food industry in terms of encouraging our team to buy local produce and order from local brands. So that was a real kind of grounding and a big learning. So that would be, I think, one of the biggest challenges. I think.
How did you survive? in that situation? Because I think if I'm talking from the entrepreneurial mindset, the easiest way, look, I know that it's uncertain tomorrow. I don't know what's happening. I see all the customer base that I have acquired, it's closing, and also I have also under my neck people, you have family, all this. How did you plan this uncertain things, knowing that this, even it will come on you as well, because your P&L will be screwed, also cash flow will be screwed. How did you plan this?
I don't think you plan. There wasn't a plan.
No way.
It was. I think it was keeping each other positive in the right mindset, trying to keep people motivated through a screen, and knowing that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. I think I'll say it. We were fortunate to be in a country in a world where the government was really steadfast in the way they dealt with it, and I think ultimately that saved a lot of companies in this country. So there wasn't a plan, but it was take every single day as it comes, adapt, motivate, stay positive, and just know that one day it was gonna turn around. And I'm just fortunate that we live in a place where it turned around quicker than others.
I think be agile. I think we were agile. I think term that you use a lot, fail fast. Like we're not perfect. We're relatively young. We're relatively young business owners, so yeah, of course we make mistakes, and we would have made mistakes around that time. New business owners, I think, both done relatively well, I think, in our careers, I'd like to say, but owning a business was something that was new to us, so we were scared. We didn't know. I think one thing that I've done all my life, and I'll tell everybody that comes into contact with me, surround yourself with good people. And we were surrounded by really good people. We picked up the phone, we looked at each other and said, what are we going to do? We were then able, though, to pick up the phone to people that cared about us, because we made that investment on others. And we asked them, what should we do here? And listen, it was our decision at the end of the day, and we made our decision. But what we were doing was gaining advice, guidance, insights, wisdom from people that were far beyond us, and we learned from that, and we made certain decisions on that. Probably took us back a few years. Loads of learnings though, but agility certainly was move quick, do the right thing by people. I think I would like to think not everyone will agree with that. When people say Luke and Greg or food people or whatever, but you can't go around this world trying to please everyone, right? We have to make business decisions at times, but the one thing that we don't do is compromise on integrity. That's something that I don't think we've ever done. Surrounding yourself with good people was something that I'm really grateful for. People know who they are. People played a huge part of my life and still do, and that was massive at that time, I'd say.
Yeah. I think the other, when I reflect, I think one of the biggest and constant challenges is that the cost to run a company continually increases. But we're in the service industry, right? So you can't continue to raise your fees because you price yourself out. So it's trying to find that balance between being able to have the right team, develop them, which is an investment, trade licenses, tech, LinkedIn, can go up every single
podcast
rooms.
Too much investment.
These costs continually go up. However, the recruitment industry has a benchmark of what you can charge and what you can't charge. So I think it's, again, just trying to continuously be creative about how you kind of overcome those challenges. It's not easy to run a company in Dubai. Far from it. It's expensive to hire. It's a great place to be, and the opportunity is huge, but the cost is significant. And I think that's been one of the biggest learnings for me, to try and balance out that. It's about working with the right people, the right partners, and ensure that they're on the journey with you. We've had some amazing partners over the years. We've also had other partners that wait until you've finished the service and then try and knock your fees down.
Yeah, that's a no-no.
You,
I'll say it like it's making an impact. And funnily enough, Greg and I sat down the end of last year, end of 2023, and we had a look at our business and we said, is the mission still right? Is the vision still right? Our values, are they still relevant and reflective of who we are? I think it's important as we grow this business, our DNA is within the business. It stands for something because I think we're quite well known. Food People's quite well known. And a lot of that has been built on the DNA of Greg and I. Unfortunately, we've had some amazing people that have supported the growth of Food People, internally certainly with the teams that we have, externally as well. But I mentioned the word impact. We looked at our values and we said, Greg said the word actually, we were trying to think about what it was, and Greg said this word 2 or 3 times. It was impact. And I said that should be the values of Food People. So we sat down and we did an exercise. I don't know where we were, whether it was hot drink or cold drink or whatever it was. And we associated words to impact. And what does it mean by making an impact at Food People? And we said I was for initiative. We said M was to be memorable. P, passionate. A is to be accountable. C is to be consultative. And T, to be trustworthy.
That's amazing.
And that's the DNA of Food People. They're the values at Food People, and they're the people, if they resonate with you in terms of values, and we say it at interviews now when we've got people coming into the business, and or we're talking about Food People to potential organizations that we partner with. What does that mean to you? Does it resonate with what impact means to us? We say to all of our guys, go and make an impact on everything you do today. Whether it's making a call to a candidate, a prospective client, whether you're writing a profile, whether you're putting a post on LinkedIn, you go to a meeting, just make an impact.
That's amazing, guys. The last thing that I want to ask you about is, what is future vision for Food People? Because you just mentioned that we have great things on the way. Can you announce it?
We're gonna. I have to watch it with Greg. Greg will announce almost anything. I think there's one thing we can. I don't know. I'll let Greg answer and see what he covers. You'll see if I don't want to announce it.
Yeah. So for a long time, we've been asked by clients, "What else do we do? Can you do this? Can you do that?" And that was essentially wider consultancy services. So we've now, our Food People, the recruitment business is stable. We've got a great team. The client base is very strong, and that side of the company is performing well. It gave Luke and I an opportunity to sort of spread our wings into more an advisory business, which we've now launched. And you would have seen online, we've taken on 4 strategic advisors. Those strategic advisors are people that we know can execute, that we trust, that we've known. Some of them known for years, have been clients as well, that have wanted to then go on to their own entrepreneurial journey and have now joined us in an advisory capacity. So that's now live, and we think that's going to be a huge success over the coming months.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Do you need to add anything?
No, he didn't mention the other one.
The other one's secret.
Oh yeah, like super jacked about the advisory arm. Greg said it. We've got a phenomenal team now at Food People. I hope the external world would agree. Great culture in the business. Advisory is definitely the next step in terms of our mission. Providing the wider solutions that Greg mentioned to create value, to fuel growth. We've got other things along the way, but again, we want to make sure whatever we do, we invest the right amount of time into it, you have the right strategy, and you implement it effectively. So looking forward to the advisory arm. Again, opportunity to learn from others, but I think we're quickly learning that we support a lot with the knowledge, the experience that we've gained over the years. I think we forget, we spoke about it this morning, that we have built a business, we are scaling a business. So there are certain skills that we've got that senior execs that have been in the corporate world maybe haven't got. But we're glad. I don't know whether Greg loves the fact that I use this word. He's probably heard it 10 times today. But to build an ecosystem, to be part of an ecosystem, I think makes something more meaningful. we're really passionate about what we do. Yeah, I think great step to the journey, really excited.
You guys are very impressive, and really, I got too much insights today, and I'm sure also our audiences who will listen to that podcast, they will have like great insights. Thank you so much for coming here today. And what I can wish you, I wish you that for continuing success for people, and I'm sure that you will go where places where magic happens. Thank you so much.
Shukran.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Unleash is the bridge between my purpose and my mission. And my mission is unleashing the human greatness to its utmost potential.